Hello, welcome to Political Science 1101, American Government. This is our last lesson from Unit 1, Theories of Government. It's Lesson 15, about questions of ideology. In this lesson, you'll learn about radical conservatives, reactionary liberals, the balance between liberty or security, and between liberty or equality, and that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Now, the premise of this last lesson is that in the battle between modern liberalism and modern conservatism, for the most part, modern liberals have won in the United States of America. Here's a list of some very significant laws that modern liberals have passed to use the power of government to enforce their ideas for economics, to try to bring about equality among people that modern liberals think will increase the freedom of at least some as you redistribute freedom from wealthy people to poorer people. Now, when we say that they won all these things, though, there is a cost to it. And the cost isn't just that freedom's being taken away from some other people, but there's also a general cost for society. And that can be seen in this notion, here's a quote from a Nobel Prize-winning economist that says it, that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Yes, we can create all these wonderful government programs that many people believe do great good for the people they benefit, such as Social Security helping elderly people in their retirement, or housing laws helping low-income people get housing, things like that. We can create these programs that we believe help people to live better lives, but there's a cost, a very real cost to these programs. And that very real cost can be seen in the massive debt that the United States is in. Most of this debt has come from expenditures for what we call entitlement programs by the government, something we'll talk a great deal more about later in the course. But the result of these massive programs that spend lots of money to try to help people be more equal is a debt of $19 trillion plus. It's hard to imagine $19 trillion, but a way to think about it is it's about $60,000 per person in America. That's how much a baby being born in a hospital today is in debt because of these programs that are designed to help people. Well, that debt is unsustainable, and there's real worries about what to do about it. And those concerns have led conservatives, in many cases, to advocate for dramatic cuts to these government programs, even as thousands of people have become dependent upon them, where if these government programs were removed, they would be in desperate poverty as a result. Many modern conservatives say, well, that's too bad, but we just can't afford to do it anymore. And the change would seem so dramatic to many people to cut back on these things that we've built up to such a common extent in our country's recent history, that conservatives that propose making these changes are oftentimes referred as radicals. It's a comparison to the people in France who wanted to get rid of the king back in 1789. The modern conservatives that want to strip back the welfare state are seen by some people as being just as crazy. Now, when modern conservatives propose rolling back these programs, which may seem radical, but from their point of view, it's back, okay, wisdom of history, what works, what doesn't. We don't think that these modern social programs have worked. They've spent too much money, they haven't cured as many things as they should, they weren't worth it, we need to get rid of them. Well, when those things are proposed, the way that modern liberals react is to shout, no, stop, don't do that, don't change anything. And at that point, they seem to be acting like the stereotypical version of a conservative reactionary. Remember, the basic idea of conservatism is stop, be careful, don't change anything. But in our modern condition, where essentially the liberals already won everything they wanted, any changes being proposed now, modern liberals are the ones that are going to throw up their hands and say, whoa, stop, don't change anything. They, in a very real sense, have become the reactionaries. And so this is an important thing to understand about debates over government power in America today. We have a government of huge powers involved in people's day-to-day lives, particularly in their economic lives. And the defenders of that want it kept in place with no changes are modern liberals. And the people who want to dramatically change it, perhaps even radically change it, and roll it back to the way it was decades previous, are modern conservatives. Now, as you think about who might or might not be right or wrong in this debate between modern conservatives and modern liberals, please consider some ideas that we've mentioned in this unit, and now I'm going to be very explicit about. One of those is that anytime we increase security, there's a cost, and it's not just a monetary cost, but a cost of us losing our freedom. So as we try to make ourselves safer, maybe from terrorist threat or just criminals on the street or whatever it is, we are going to have to lose some freedom to accomplish that. We're going to have to give the police more powers to search our records, monitor our emails, whatever it is. We won't be as free to keep secrets and go where we want and do what we want. Now, you, in considering these problems, may evaluate these costs and decide it's worth it. Okay, yes, I'm willing to give up some of those freedoms to be more secure, but you need to realize that's what you're doing. Now, similarly, increases in equality are going to result in decreases in freedom also, at least in the aggregate. Now, I'm not entirely contradicting the idea of Jean-Jacques Rousseau and the modern liberals who argue that you need equality to increase freedom. Absolutely. Forced equality from the government does increase freedom for those who benefit from it. Some people before this could barely survive in working all day long, and they didn't have a good place to live, and they had no time to read books and learn more and go on vacations and things like that. But now that equality has been forced into the system through some of these government programs, they now have some of those freedoms. So yes, some people do get more freedom through equality. But as freedom is redistributed from the wealthier people to the less well-off people, it isn't an even exchange. Freedom is actually lost along the way. There's a net loss for our society. And this can be seen in the example of, say, Obamacare, the government mandated health insurance program. Because it doesn't just take money from wealthy people and give it to poorer people so that then they can buy insurance. It actually dictates what insurance they can buy. So even as it spread around the ability to buy insurance to more people, at the same time, it restricted the choices that people have for their insurance. So while some people gained freedom and some people lost freedom when they lost their money in this system, overall, there is a net loss of freedom for the whole society as they have fewer choices of what to do. Now, again, you may look at this net loss of freedom and say, well, it's worth it. I really want poorer people to have health insurance. And if all of us have to give up a little freedom to accomplish that, it's worth it to me. But what I absolutely want you to remember, probably the only thing from this first unit of this course that I'm really hopeful that you will remember long after you've taken this class, is that whenever the government comes along and offers to fix something, whether it be threats from terrorists or our healthcare system or whatever it is, whenever the government says, hey, we're going to create a new program and try to do something for you, always realize that the cost of that includes a loss of freedom. And then you can make a rational choice about whether it's worth it. Don't just look at the dollar amount involved. Don't just look at the benefits of it. But also consider in your mind how much freedom people will lose by this law being enacted. And then you can make a wise choice about whether it's a good idea or a bad idea to do it. So now let's review what you learned in this lesson, this last lesson of Unit 1. First of all, in what way are modern conservatives radical? Is it because they want to establish a national religion? Or they want to go to war with Russia? Or they want to take away people's guns? Or is it they want to reduce government programs? Well, actually, modern conservatives aren't in favor of the other things on that list. The only thing that they are is reducing government programs. Well, in what way are modern liberals reactionary? Is it they oppose welfare reductions? Is it they want to open our borders? Is it they favor abortion on demand? Or is it that they supported gay marriage? Well, depending on your point of view, these positions may be controversial, but only one of them is really reactionary, where somebody's trying to change something and liberals are saying, no, no, don't do that. And that is their opposition to welfare reductions. Next question. What is the result of government giving us more security? Is it more equality for everyone or less equality? Is it more freedom for everyone or is it less freedom? Well, as the government tries to make us safe, they're always going to have to take away some of our freedom to do it. The last question for this review is, what is the result of more equality enforced on us by the government? Is it more security for all? Less security? More freedom for everyone? Or is it less freedom? The correct answer again is less freedom. Again, as I said, anytime the government tries to regulate anything in our lives, the cost is going to include a loss of freedom. All right, that's it for this lesson, and that does it for Unit 1. The next lesson that I'll have posted for you will be from Unit 2, Lesson 1, which will be about constitutionalism.